Wednesday night. This is Breaking the News. I'm Janice Shortle. So right now, Americans, Minnesotans, are feeling inflation big time. And for people who need help getting food on the table, some bad news came a few days ago when the USDA suddenly announced that it's getting rid of the report it's done for 30 years that helps track hunger. Why should a report matter? Here's Kent.
On the same day that Farm Aid rocked Minneapolis in support of family farms nationwide, the U.S. Department of Agriculture quietly killed a report that tracks food security and hunger nationwide, adding these redundant, costly, politicized, and extraneous studies do nothing more than fearmonger.
If we don't track it, it doesn't mean it's not there. It just means it's harder to know where it is.
Rob Williams is founder of Every Meal, a community-funded nonprofit that packs thousands of shelf-stable meals in its Roseville warehouse every week, and then relies on volunteers across the region to deliver them directly into backpacks so kids facing food insecurity and their families have meals for the weekend.
We work in almost 400 schools, but our wait list for schools is 173.
He says that's where the USDA report usually comes in.
How do we identify which school on our waiting list should we serve?
The latest report, which compiled data from 2023, found that 13.5% of U.S. households were food insecure, continuing an upward trend from 2022. But after its final report due next month, the USDA says it will, quote, use the bevy of more timely and accurate data sets available to it.
No data is perfect, but when you have multiple sources of data, you can start to put together a more robust picture.
Sarah Moberg, CEO of Second Harvest Heartland, says the change puts more pressure on their own statewide survey launched just last year to get a more timely snapshot of need. It found that nearly 20% of Minnesota households reported moderate or low food stability.
We're going to be doing it on an annual basis, and for Minnesota, that's going to help us continue to have the direction and the guidance we need to make smart choices with the resources that we're entrusted with. Data is an important part.
But she says the survey can't fully replace the federal data, which helps them identify geographic areas of need. And with big federal cuts on the horizon for food stamps, she says questions of need will likely be greater than ever.
I think that we will be moving from a hunger crisis to a hunger catastrophe. And the lack of nationwide data will make it more difficult for us to understand the impacts of that type of a policy change.
But no matter how difficult, they'll all keep doing the work.
We first started with one church saying we're going to feed kids at this one school 15 years ago. We serve 12,000 kids a week now, and that's all community money, not government money. So can the community step up? Yeah, we've done it over and over. We have to. They're part of our community and part of the community's responsibility.
As part of its statement, the USDA also claims its hunger report was simply created to support the increase the allotment of SNAP and food stamps back during the Clinton administration, saying it's failed to present anything more than subjective liberal fodder. Now, look at this map behind me from the latest report, and it's clear it's conservative states that actually appear to have the most to lose. All of the states in the dark orange have consistently faced food insecurity above the U.S. average. You might notice, Jana, Minnesota and our states up here are below that average.
Yeah, and I just hope that the terms being used, like liberal fodder, when we're talking about people that need help with food, maybe that should just be out of bounds.
Yeah, and they both said that today, Rob and Sarah. They said this goes across both aisles. They see it both in Minnesota and in greater Minnesota. And it's so hard to see in your communities because it's a hidden problem for so many.
All right. Thanks so much, Kent. We appreciate it.